Who says we can't have it all? This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
The guy who doesn't know how to mute his computer. That's who says it. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 290, finally, of the O The Anthem podcast. Coming to you from the hashtag OTA LA studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for subscribing on your podcatcher of choice. That took a minute because I get so worked up about anchor.fm/O The Anthem that sometimes find myself so excited to talk about it, and I just get tripped up over my own words. That's what happened right there.
Yeah.
You should be as excited because anchor.fm/O The Anthem is the place you can go to find the podcatcher of your choice and subscribe to the podcast there.
Yeah, so the message there, anchor.fm, that's anchor.fm/O The Anthem is the place to go to find the podcast.
Yes, indeed.
You can also find us at O The Anthem on Twitter and Instagram. You're watching right now live, hopefully, at facebook.com/O The Anthem, where we record every single episode. So make sure you check it out there. You can, of course, find all the videos at youtube.com/O The Anthem. Everything O The Anthem related at otheanthem.com.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, including the store.
Yes.
For the time being.
Yes.
Until our whatever thing runs out, whenever they were warning about it. Nothing like a just completely secretive message sent to us by the place where we have our store, like, hey, you might not have a store at some point. Just keep an eye out. Like, cool. Thanks.
I guess we'll keep an eye out.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah. So, going back over the previous years, we used to call this episode The Basement of Horrors.
Yes.
But as you know, we are no longer in the basement.
No.
Deep below the earth in Parkville, Maryland. So.
No, we've been moving on up, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what we would actually call this now. The Penthouse of Horrors? Is that what this is now? Penthouse of Horrors.
Not quite the penthouse. It's
oh, yeah, you know. The mid-range apartment for new people to LA of horrors. In any event, it has been a horror. Apologies to you guys who are used to us coming out a little bit earlier than now.
Especially the people who probably saw the Instagram post or the Twitter post and were just like, oh, I got to rush to my computer to get to...
The Windows, fantastic machine. Preferred over the Apple, clearly. But can be a pain in the ass with the drivers that don't automatically update. And then doesn't tell you until you try to do the thing. I will say we are looking especially crisp, though, in the preview.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we look all right in the video. There's some lag, but the video looks basically all right. That's not bad. Yeah. So if you're not checking out the video, you're missing out. Make sure you go on over to youtube.com/O The Anthem, where you can see the video of this week's episode. It'll be live on Tuesday, along with the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, and youtube.com/O The Anthem for the previously recorded episodes.
Yes, absolutely.
Once they go live on Tuesday, they're live on YouTube as well. So.
And so happy Halloween to everyone. I think last year we forgot to even say happy Halloween because it happened in the middle of the week.
It was a weird one last year, wasn't
Wednesdays.
it? Yeah.
Weird Wednesdays. And we went out and celebrated this weekend instead because like college kids, it's going to be a 2-weekend party for us. Find places to go. Although it wouldn't be, I think, unless we have visitors coming into town. That really makes it like let's go find something to do.
And I don't know, it's sounding more and more like that's going to be a girls' night.
Oh,
so,
thank God.
It'll be movie night for us.
All right, yes. And speaking of movies, of course, you can catch Corey's other project. Let me transition over to you. Other project at CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com. And anchor.fm/Corey Baker Film.
Yep.
And, of course, that's the pretentious movie reviews. If you're into that kind of thing, if you prefer, come check out the Everyman movie reviews over at Everyman Movie Reviews on Anchor. And it's available on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rob Cheek. Because, by the way, I realized, wait, let me get back to the two-shot here. I realized I created that before I branded everywhere, and now because of my subscriber number and my view minutes, I can't undo it. Because if I undo
I think you
it,
just premiered the.
What did it transition? Oh, there we go.
There you go.
So now you can see Corey. I realized that if I undo it, I'm blocked from actually putting in a username. You know, you have to have so much subscribers and or watch time. So if I try to change it, it's going to tell me, hey, you don't have the credentials to have a unique. So I can't change it. So unless I can get, 980 more of you to come subscribe to the channel and watch a significant amount of
Just watch all of them on repeat.
Yeah, listen, just let it play in the background. I would be happy about that. So
You should just set up like a proxy on a computer at work that just plays all your videos over and over again on repeat, and then explain to everybody that you're just making sure YouTube is still up.
Yes.
Like this thing will constantly run with my videos just to make sure YouTube is currently operational.
Here's what I'm going to say. If I get 50...
Because if we don't see a video here, then YouTube is down, and we got a serious problem. And
if I get 50 people who follow me, I'll just go live on YouTube. All day, every day. My life is the kind that I could just be live. And I don't know.
You have such a low bar.
Yeah. 50. I mean, that's double what I have right now.
I like the thinking of who's that supermodel who was like, I don't roll up out of bed for less than $1,000 a day or something like that.
Yeah.
And Rob's just like, 50 people are paying attention to me. I'm gonna go live on the internet
constantly, 24 hours. It'll be the Rob Show. Apologies to you guys in the Facebook chat. Background vid was turned on. Mike Aux still muted. So you were hearing some beautiful deep house music, which was playing the night that we recorded that background video. I don't know if you remember. Just like a dum, dum, dum,
on the
just like really slight and low. So now you can hear us. If you're listening to this in podcast form, you have no idea what we're talking about. But join us every Monday, Sunday, and or Saturday. For recording.
I mean, it wouldn't be right if there weren't spooky things that were happening on this episode of the podcast.
Yeah, it's the Halloween episode. So.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I don't look for. I love the Halloween season, but I don't look forward to Halloween so much anymore. I think one of the reasons is because Walmart and its ilk has ruined it for me. Because right now it's Holla Thanks Xmas.
Yeah.
Christmas trees are up in stores. Don't understand that. And Thanksgiving stuff and Halloween stuff all together. And they have the back to school stuff on discount. Like,
yeah,
it's all there. So it really puts me out of the mood.
I think the thing about Halloween to me is that, so me personally, like my Halloween costume for when we went out was I was going as F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Deep pull. It was a deep pull.
Well, and the problem is that I'm just a guy in a suit, basically. Yeah. Is the
well, with a funny haircut. You had a funny haircut, too.
I had a middle part, so that was interesting.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, I don't know. And I knew I didn't want to carry around, like, Great Gatsby all night just to, like, be like, I'm F. Scott Fitzgerald. I just figured nobody would ask me, and then I'd never have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like I have to be inspired for Halloween.
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't come to me naturally, then I don't know if I want to be a part, because it's just too hard to like come up with the idea of like what personifies you as a person in your Halloween costume and what will people understand, you know?
And the difficulty with the couples costumes is having to like plan in advance
and negotiate the costume that the other person will have to be wearing as well. You know,
yeah.
I can say that I want to dress up like Link from The Legend of Zelda, but then I got to convince Rachel to be Zelda.
Yeah.
She's just like, I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, so we'll get to it a little later, but...
so I tried to talk her to being Zelda Fitzgerald instead.
We'll talk about it a little later, but hey, Mr. President, we know a little bit about negotiating with terrorists as well. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where 2 years ago, I got reminded, 2 years ago, I came up...
Did you see that Ronan Farrow quote, by the way?
No.
Somebody asked somebody at NBC why they haven't made any changes in the aftermath of Ronan's book.
Yeah.
And the off-the-record quote was something like, because we're not going to negotiate with goddamn terrorists.
Yeah, well, that makes sense, you know. But 2 years
ago...
Tell
us how you really feel, NBC.
2 years ago, I came up with an idea like 3 days before Halloween. I put it together using stuff that I like went to Walmart and I'm like, this will work. I can make this work, and then just crafted it myself. But when you have other people's involved, you can't. How
much did that Cuphead costume cost you?
Maybe $15, including the gas and energy to go around.
Because I'm seeing it for like $40 at like Halloween stores. Yeah,
Party City, $49.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it looks worse than the one that I made.
Yours looked incredible.
Yes, the one I made was better. I'm gonna do that. You know what? On Halloween, I'm gonna put the side by side. Here's the one for 2 years ago. Here's the one I found in Party City. And why am I... Listen, I am a multi-skilled man. Put me to work doing anything. I'll design costumes. Clearly, I'm better at it. I put together a dollar store Cuphead costume. It looks better than the one you have. Of course, I don't really want kids sticking their head in the cut bottom of a laundry basket either. So
yeah.
So there's that, I suppose.
Just make sure that they sign a waiver before.
No, yeah. Or if I had some forethought, I could have
start the waiver with like a paragraph or two about like this costume is extra spooky and should be treated carefully for being so spooky. Also, you might die of cancer.
Could cut your throat while you're wearing it.
9 paragraphs in, just like
anyway.
after most of this costume was made in China, blah blah blah, might kill you.
Well, to
Enjoy
be fair,
Halloween.
Every costume you get in California comes with a Prop 35 warning. Literally everything you buy.
Because everything causes cancer.
Everything's going to give you cancer. Sorry about that, guys. Including apparently the air.
I feel like Big Sign was in charge of getting that thing passed.
Oh, yeah.
The one guy who owns a sign store that makes all these Prop 65 signs or whatever. It's just like...
We got them. We got them. They got to go everywhere. All right.
I had to bribe so many state assemblymen to get this thing passed.
Speaking of bribing state officials, let's talk about Sportsball. Not only are we having bad
It was
delays,
going to be a super off-color joke, so I'm glad the music
I
saved
cut
it.
that. Yeah, I just went back. I saw you winding up for the thing you're going to have to delete from Twitter in a few years.
Oh, God, is he wheelchair? Oh, my God, it looks like he's doing a wheelchair thing.
I didn't know what exactly it was, but I saw you winding up to something that I figured was not good. So in Sportsball this week, couple of things. World Series is happening.
Yeah.
I've watched exactly 0 minutes of the World Series. I did, however, watch the World Series pregame from last night. Not for the players, not for anything like that, because the crowd in Washington booed the president when he was announced, which just... You think you got a friendly audience, and then, no, not so much.
I really sometimes think Trump thinks he's going to show up to these things and be cheered like crazy. Or at the very least, it'll be like a noticeably mixed reaction.
Yeah. Nope, not going to happen.
And especially on a day where you kill like a #1 terrorist, you expect to get like a little bit of a pop.
Yep. We got a pop.
Yeah.
He got a pop. Not since the election of 2016 has a crowd cheered, "Lock him up."
My favorite part of the whole thing was they were doing that like show appreciation for the military thing at the time where they showed them on the scoreboard at one point. And, there's, like people from the Air Force like up there like, like raised fists like, yeah, thank you. And the crowd is cheering like crazy. And then all of a sudden Trump switched over and it's just immediate boo. And you can see the best is like the videos where they go close on his face, and at first he's just like, "Hi, everybody." What?
Because he's getting that remnant cheering, and he's just like, "That's right, cheer." Wait, what's going on, Melania? What is happening? I don't understand.
Melania's face is even better. Her eyes basically just say like, "Yup, take that, bitch." It's like,
and then they cut back to the veterans, and it's right back to the
right
cheers,
back to the applause.
And then apparently they later they showed him again, which is when the "lock him up" cheer went around the stadium. And it's like you think DC is going to be a friendly crowd to the president. And this reminds me, Mike Pence?
Most of the people in that crowd were fired by Trump.
So. Also true, yes, and or furloughed at some point by Trump.
The only one cheering is Kavanaugh.
Oh yeah, the monkey sitting in front of him who are like, "Yay, yay!" And I was like, "Oh man, you're like, his eyes are on the back of your skull. Like, how hard are you cheering? Like, don't listen to him, Mr. President. You're doing a great job." And he turns around and you're like, "Did anybody see me clapping?"
Eric's like right in Trump's ear, just going like, "Ah." "Oh my God, he's so good." Ah.
Well, and see, I think the only person more afraid than that is like, I don't know, any world leader who's on his wrong side now, because like, well, now he's gonna have to bomb somebody. Roll the dice. Let's hope it's not Eastern Europe. Okay, here we go. He's got to change the subject.
Talking about a bunch of boobs at the World Series. Did you hear about those 2 models who got banned for life?
From the World Series?
Yeah.
For what?
They flashed the camera. They were behind home plate.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, the camera you can't cut away from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, no, I'll take it.
So that's out there. I just wanted to find some transition with boobs.
Here's the thing: if you're gonna get banned from the World Series, isn't that a good reason to do it?
I guess so. I mean, like, I don't know how devoted either one of these two were to the World Series.
Not at all.
to begin with. I don't know if they are huge national fans or something like that. But
and we're talking about them, which is exactly what they want. And I mean, in the end, it's one of those things where you say like, take the nudes while you're young, so you have them.
Yeah.
And then when you're older, you have them. And I guess that's not true now because Gen Zers send nudes because it's Thursday, not
somewhere Anthony Weiner is poking his head into the.
Say what?
What are you talking about?
What about nudes, huh? But I mean, those girls will be able to go back to that video footage and be like, "See, kids, your mom used to be hot." Actually, to be fair, her husband will probably go back there and be like, "Look what you did to her. Look how hot she used to be."
Oh, children.
Anyway, but there's not a lot more to talk about. Today or yesterday was Sports Equinox.
Today was Sports Equinox.
There's
yesterday.
No
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yesterday. Yes.
And for those of you who don't know, that is because all 4 major sports were playing on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
NBA had opened up, hockey has opened up, baseball's in the World Series, which is like the last little bit of baseball, and of course we're in the middle of football season. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about, except for I don't care about hockey. Baseball, not the real season for us to really care about it. Basketball.
I mean, I could talk any of these sports, but it's just like, especially with basketball and hockey, it's so early in the season, and it doesn't matter until later.
Listen, we're playing 88 games to eliminate 2 teams to go into the playoffs. So.
I mean, right now it's about like, interesting. Like there's individual games that are interesting. Like I think I saw that Houston is going to play in OKC today.
Oh, yeah.
So it'll be a return of Russ to OKC. So that's interesting in as much as like
maybe he'll
see
find
what
that
the reaction is and stuff like that.
Maybe we'll find the haircut that he had when he was in OKC, because whatever he's got right now reminds me of Manny when he first went to LA.
Manny when he was with the Orioles at the end.
Oh, did he have it at the end there too?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I thought that was like
that was like his season cut for that year.
I felt like
not.
Maybe I fooled myself. I feel like that was he walked into an LA place and was just like, "Oh, whatever you want, it's fine." And then he came out and he was like, "What the fuck did they do to my hair?"
He walked into the barber shop. He's just like, "Make me sparkle."
Yes. And then they failed miserably. But the good news is, as you guys know, we are West Coast Ravens fans. And generally speaking, the Ravens are going to get the early game, which for us means 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. We have to be somewhere because it's not on local TV,
right?
To go watch the game. And this is my message for the week. Bye weeks, they're not just for players. Because we got a lovely, one, we were out pretty late on Saturday. And you had work, which I forgot about once we got to Tony's, by the way. Yeah. I also drank a Sam Adams rosé. Rare form. Oh, I wanted to mention this to you too. Not sports, but whatever. Smaltimore.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what Smaltimore is, right? Like you run into the same 12 people no matter where you go.
Mm-hmm.
I ran into people from my work at Tony's party.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this town has way more people in it than in Baltimore. How am I running into people I know who are like 4 degrees separation? Just because we know, I know you and you know Tony, and Tony knows his roommate, and the roommate knows one guy I work with, and he brought another guy I work with who then called me out at the party. And I want to be like, listen, we could have been adults about this, and you could have gone on about your business and never noticed it, and I would never know we were here. And now I got to act sober, even though I've been drinking for a long time, and I don't appreciate that. I don't get to relax very often, and it was nice until you came over. I'm just kidding.
You could have just told him that. Just be like, I don't see you. You don't see me. Walk away.
See, I feel like we already have a weird relationship where I think he's worried about me flexing like that. So like he's on edge about wait. I always make jokes.
Did he like walk up and be like, "Hi, Mr. Cheek"?
No. So we're at the same level in the company. He's in a related company. So I make jokes about age to be deprecating towards myself, and I do it to everybody. I'm always like saying things and being like, "Oh, you kids don't know what I'm talking about." And there are some people who take that really personally. They're just like, "I'm not a kid," blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I literally do this to Karen, who is 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because I feel like the oldest person here.
Right.
You just need to calm down. So then I have to be extra careful around that, where I'm like, don't say something that you might say to somebody else. And how many Sam Adams have you had? Or no, Angry Orchards. It was Angry Orchard rosé. Had too many Angry Orchards and a little bit of Jack Daniels. And this night is about to go horribly awry. but it was fine.
That makes more sense over the Sam Adams.
Rose. That'd be interesting.
I was saying to myself, I was just like, how do they market that?
Yeah, because there's broads in Boston who want to have a nice rosé, but she's not going to be caught dead with a bottle. So put in a Sam Adams. There you go.
Problem solved.
Sam Adams, why are you not hiring me? Anyway, so it was nice, not for you, because you had to get up and go to work in the morning.
Yeah, it's all right, though, because that was a fun day on set.
Yeah. I got to sleep in, though. It was super nice to just like not set an alarm and not wake up.
I do like when I work on things with celebrities or like people that other people know, just because it makes it easier to have a conversation with somebody who's just like, who's the biggest star you worked with? You know, because then like it totally depends on like what kind of experience you have growing up and like how that has changed over time. You know, like there was a while where like Bruce Valanche was like the biggest star I worked with. And then like
people are like, who?
People are like, who's the biggest star you ever worked with? And I'm just like, you ever watch the new Hollywood Squares?
He's a comedian. He's a prolific writer.
Oh, yeah, I know, but I'm saying like people don't know who writers are.
I mean, that's true. We know who writers are. Other people don't.
Have you laughed at any jokes at the Academy Awards for the last 20 years?
That's him.
That's probably him.
Yeah. High likelihood. But anyway, so we'll probably have more sports. Oh, the other thing I want to bring up. I say that, oh, great, we get to sleep in on a Sunday. And then I realized, thanks to you this afternoon, we actually have a really good stretch of games coming up here. Because we have a Sunday night game next week. So it's almost like another sleep-in day if we really don't want to go to the bar at 10 a.m.
I probably won't.
Yeah. Then we have 2-day games, so we're back to normal. And then Monday night football.
In L.A. Yeah.
And then the next week, I will just be getting back from... Oh, no, I'll be traveling back from Thanksgiving break. So I'll catch whatever game's on in the bar at the airport where I'm having a drink at 6 o'clock in the morning because rules do not apply in the airport.
Or the airplane.
I'm in sweatpants and, sandals.
If you're flying from the East Coast, though, at 6 a.m.,
yeah,
then you should land by the time the game starts.
Yeah, you don't have a drink on this side of the trip in the airport as well?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, I go grab a Cinnabon and go to the bar and have a beer.
My goal is to be in the airport for as little time as possible. On both ends.
Yes, absolutely. On both ends. Sometimes causing us to almost miss a flight.
I've never missed a flight. I've never.
I didn't say miss it. I said almost miss it.
Almost missing is it's horseshoes and hand grenades. Almost.
And by the way, dating a girl who is almost the polar opposite of you. Okay, so the flight's at 6 p.m.
The flight's at 6 p.m. on Thursday, so I think we should get there on Tuesday.
We'll just camp out at the gate. I know they won't have assigned it yet, but we know which part of the airport it'll be in, and we'll just sit and wait there.
You've slept like over one of those armrests before. It's not so bad.
Plus, I mean, they have wine. And what else does a person really need to get by?
Well, because Rachel will just be like, well, you know how bad that traffic is at LAX. We can't risk
it.
Getting there any less than 2 days beforehand.
So, joking, yes, but I do believe at one point she suggested we get to the airport 3 hours early for a domestic flight to the East Coast. And not like leave the house. Like be in the area of the airport 3 hours early because it'll take us an hour to get to the terminal and then an hour to get through security.
And then another hour to walk the 10 feet from security to where the gate is.
Yeah. And I believe that you
got to remember
that flight. But
the plane takes off a half hour before it says that it's supposed to.
Yeah, that's the way they trick you. Yeah. That's how they get you. They get you by taking off.
You walk in thinking you got a 1 o'clock flight, but you really got to be there at 12:30, and you just showed up 12:15. Joke's on you.
Out of luck. But I do believe that we left approximately 1 hour before takeoff and made it to the plane, which was delayed, I actually think, if I remember that correctly now. Might not have made it if it wasn't delayed. But nonetheless, see, when there's no sports to talk about, it's like a weird thing.
Sportsball becomes a lot more life ball.
Yeah. But updated Sportsball in a few weeks, maybe. We're going to be going to Vegas. And might be time to put some bets on next year's Orioles. Do they break 50 wins? What are the odds to break 50 wins next year?
What's the over-under for the Orioles? I need... Do it before they start taking Rule 5 draft picks because I could really swing it.
Things could get interesting. How about this? Would you take a bet that was the Orioles win 100 plus games next year?
No.
What odds do you need to put $100 down on the Orioles to win 100 games? At 100 to 1,
Yeah.
$100 pays off $10 million. No, that's too many zeros. One, that's a $10,000.
Yeah, 10,000.
$10,000 on a $100 bet.
Yeah, but it's throwing away $100.
Right, 10,000 to 1. Now we are at $1 million.
Yeah. That would be better odds.
Million to 1.
Yeah, then I can place $1 on.
No. You have to place a $100 bet.
You don't have to place $100.
I'm giving you a hypothetical. You have to place a $100 bet. What do the odds need to be for you to place on the Orioles to win 100 games?
If it was like $1 million to 1, it would be hard not to think about it.
They're going to pay out $100 million.
I'm the only person in Vegas to do that.
First of all, it's on the board, and someone in the back is just like, who the
the odds go down because I bet
astronomically downward because Corey actually placed the bet, and they're just like, all right, that was our joke.
We didn't anyone think everyone would actually pay for that.
Meanwhile, okay, it's the end of the season. The Orioles are at 98 wins, and Corey's just like refusing work. He needs to be in front of the television every single game.
Making friends with a lot of umpires.
Listen, I got a cut for you. I don't know if you've heard about the... Listen, 1929. I want to take you back.
Standing outside of Dodger Stadium just going like, Bill Welke. You want to get dinner?
Let's get dinner. I know where your children go to school.
Get my electric car. I'll buy you dinner at Musso and Frank's. Welcome to Los Angeles. I'm the welcome wagon.
Yes. Yeah.
By the way, time might come where there's a big call in an Oriole game. I don't know if you can see yourself to. We get so little joy as Oriole fans. So
yeah,
you know, if you grade us on a curve, if you will.
I mean, I could give you a million reasons why you should help us get to 100 wins.
Just get 100 umpires and give them $1 million each.
Then you don't have any money left over.
99 umpires.
Okay, so wait, what's the rule? You need,
but then you'd have to pay taxes on it too. That's that's where they get
half,
you. So
yes, figure half.
Yeah,
and then they'll probably. I mean, you take the winnings all at once. But I think the rule is.
I would walk up to the thing, just slide the ticket to the cashier, and just be like, "Cash, please."
Oh, can you imagine being the guy who's got to like run that upstairs? Like, oh. Hey, son, you ever owned a casino? You ever owned a casino before?
I'm going to have to talk to some people about this.
And by the way, it's some Gen Zer who's just like in the calculator, like, okay, I have $100 bet. Odds are 1 million to 1. Okay, hang on a sec. Let me. $100 bet. Odds are 1 million. I'm gonna have to run this upstairs for a second. Plus, hey, go to one of those smaller casinos. You can just own the damn casino. There you go. Now you have an income stream.
Congratulations. You're now the CEO of MGM.
Yeah. I mean, depending on how bad the...
Rob, do you want a movie green? With who? MGM? Nah.
I'm good.
God damn it.
I'm trying to build a name in this business. I don't know what you're doing.
My media empire is crumbling.
Here's a question. Do you think you would do better or worse than the current slate of MGM offerings?
I don't know what they got. They have James Bond.
That's it. Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if MGM actually does anything other than
Let's play
name
a game.
holder for MGM anymore.
What is in the MGM slate? We know that they are not doing Idris Elba, James Bond, but there's got to be something else. They can't just be staking everything on James Bond.
A lot of resorts.
Resorts come up first. That's no surprise.
MGM Studios.
Here we go. Yes. And going to the website. Hey, while he's looking that up, let's just go ahead and close this up. Hey, that's Sportsball.
So Addams Family is theirs.
Oh, okay.
Their TV is doing live PD and what's the one? This guy. Handmaid's Tale.
Okay, so I also see some black and white on the home screen, which is not a good scene or not a good look for your current slate. I see Magnificent Seven,
Creed 2.
Oh, so they must have
a lot of syndication stuff.
Yeah, a lot of TV.
Yeah,
but they must have the Rocky franchise into Rocky, James Bond, and Addams Family. That's putting a lot of eggs in the baskets. I'm not sure I would do that.
I hope nobody gets offended by how James Bond treats women. Pussy galore is Me Too'd. You having a moment?
I forgot for a moment that was the name of a Bond character
in Bond.
And I was just like swallowed and tried to breathe at the same time. And I was just like, what the fuck did you just say? And it took like 2 seconds to be like, oh, right. That is actually a James Bond
That's an
character.
actual character name.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Saw my life flash before my eyes.
You know who could fix MGM?
Who's that?
Robert Evans.
Yes, he absolutely could.
Kid Notorious.
Well, see, I don't know if he could nowadays. He could have in the heyday of the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
I don't know if he had it anymore. Yeah, I mean, he had a office at Universal. Was it
Paramount.
Universal? Paramount.
Yeah.
On the Paramount lot right where I live, right near where I live, there's a Robert Evans office. And there's a podcaster I listen to who also is named Robert Evans. Mm-hmm. And he was joking on his podcast. I don't think it was like, what do you call it? Gallows humor. Where it's just like, hey, I'm just going to show up, show somebody my ID, and make them throw me out of the office. Like, I've always wanted to make films. Wait, what are you talking about? My name's on the damn door. Here's my ID. And just make them get rid of them. But yes, so Robert Evans. Such movies as...
he personally produced Chinatown. He was head of Paramount. I almost said MGM. Head of Paramount when they were doing The Godfather and Godfather 2 and Rosemary's Baby and pretty unprecedented legacy in Hollywood.
Yeah.
As sort of like one of the biggest producers to ever do it.
And you say The Godfather and people are like, oh, The Godfather. But before that movie came out, that people were saying this is going to be the albatross that Evans hangs himself on. Mm-hmm. It was based on Mario Puzo's book, right? And basically, they couldn't get the damn thing shot. Apparently, it had been in turnaround for another studio, and Evans bought it, or bought the rights to it. And then they couldn't get it done because they wanted to film in... what's the name of the director?
Coppola
wanted to do it in New York. Mm-hmm. And he couldn't get any union guys to come out because the union guys in New York were all Italian, and they thought they didn't like how Italians were portrayed in the movie. So, do you know the story about Robert Evans?
Yeah.
He just goes to meet with the head of the unions, who's actually the head of the La Cosa Nostra.
Yeah.
La Cosa Nostra in New York. And he gives them a copy of the script, and he says, I will take anything out of this that you want. Any reference to mafia in this, I will take out. And apparently there was one reference to mafia, but the guy clearly didn't read it himself. He gave it to somebody and said, find every time they say mafia in here.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they don't say mafia. They say La Cosa Nostra.
Well, it was also the bet on they won't actually read this.
Yes, yes.
We're giving them the opportunity, but they're not actually going to read this. So.
And apparently he did have an underling because they took out one reference to mafia, and then all of a sudden everybody showed up for work the next day. Yeah. And he got it shot. And it was another thing where people were saying they might, Italian Americans aren't going to be offended by this. But, people came out and saw it. It's like De Niro. Not De Niro. Yeah, De Niro. No. Nope, not De Niro. The other one. The other Italian actor from the 80s who's very prolific, even in his old age. Not De Niro, but... Pacino. That's who I'm looking for. Scarface.
Yeah.
It took a long way to get there. But people were like,
wait, Scarface was supposed to be Cuban.
I just say, played by an Italian. People said that the Hispanic community, especially the Cuban community in Florida, would hate Scarface, but they saw it and they loved it because it was like, oh, a badass dude who is Cuban who's going to say, fuck you, I'm going to do what I want.
You know who doesn't love the portrayal that they have out there?
Who's
Baltimore in The Wire. I wonder why.
Well, because there is no such person as Scarface. There was no Godfather per se, but The Wire, pretty accurate. So it offends everybody.
Martin O'Malley, Tommy Carcetti.
Yes, yeah. Listen, you call him by a different name, but they pretty much nailed the character. Anyway, so back to the topic, which is Robert Evans passed away this week. And it's one of those things where you don't know. If you don't know who Robert Evans is, that's fine. But you have absolutely seen something that he influenced, whether it was, again, some of the classics from the 60s, 70s, early 80s, or even today. He's still producing now.
Well, Robert, you know what? I think that for people who are unaware, because he's not like a super well-known he's not like Brad Pitt, like he's not world famously known.
Yes.
But I mean, within the industry, he was very well known. And I think that a lot of what people think of as a producer is sort of based off of how Robert Evans carried himself. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of like, schmoozing that was going on with Evans, and a lot of like, hey, I'm here to fix the he felt like a very like charismatic and smooth guy, and he sort of like was able to talk himself out of problems, and just did a really good job as like a studio head for Paramount there for a
very long time. For a very long time. And also not without controversy.
No.
And there are a lot of people. Harvey Weinstein, I don't give the credit of like, he's been in the industry a long time. Robert Evans, maybe you give him a little bit of a break because he came up in the 60s or 50s in the industry, and he was there when it was like the industry, right? Like they go pay off cops and stuff.
I think the danger in comparing the two is that while Evans was always around women, I don't know how much of that was like women want to be around me because I'm a powerful studio head,
right?
And can because the thing about Me Too, I think at a certain point is that like there has to be some sort of time period where it's separated from how people, because I mean like sexual harassment has always happened.
Yes.
But there
and continues to, despite
I mean like there's nothing that's really going to stop it unless we just become better people, like generally speaking.
That's not going to happen.
But it's hard to say like what somebody was doing because they wanted notoriety or fame or wanted to be in the stratosphere of somebody like that. Whereas Harvey has like actual rape allegations.
Yes.
On,
and
nobody said anything about Evans.
No, it was always
sort
just
of like a playboy.
That's it. It's a playboy in an age when playboys were kind of what the studio
he was kind of like a Hugh Hefner type.
Yeah.
And there was never any, like, Hefner was always around a lot of women, and it seems like women wanted to be around Hefner because he was Hefner. But I never heard of anything where he was just like, like pleading with some girl who was like coming to his hotel room.
Come on, give me a massage.
No, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about that. I didn't mean to touch you like that. And if I made you feel uncomfortable, I'm sorry. Like,
But there was a level of attitude towards women very much set in the 40s and 50s when he was a young man.
Yeah, I mean, I think the more I think of it out loud, I feel like Hefner and Playboy is kind of the lateral to
it
Evans.
Really is.
Like that seems more like his lane.
But I mean, Hefner was also respectful towards women.
Yeah. And I don't see any reason why I haven't heard anything to the contrary for Evans either. I don't know. I just think he's you ever those people who like they're awful for some reason or another, but you have to rationalize them to other people.
Yeah.
Like Corey's like that because Corey grew up in the South and it's a little bit different there where he grew up. Like
you used my example, but okay, yeah.
It's like. Like he says things, but he's not a bad guy. He just
listen, it's your grandfather argument.
Every once in a while he makes an off-color joke, and we all just sort of politely laugh and then ignore it, and then just move on. And most of the time he's a great guy. It's not, it's just those 10% of the times where he's saying something truly despicable that like.
Well, and I would say I never heard my grandfather say anything truly despicable. But he certainly said things that, in hindsight, looking back now as a grown man, were very inappropriate, very off color. But it's the kind of thing you hear in movies set in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, listen, it's 95, not 45, buddy. Let's get those that mentality updated. But it's not like super horrible, just like slightly misogynistic. I mean, let's be honest, slightly white supremacist, just, nothing. I once heard him call a guy uncle, which I don't think is, the guy was older than him. not supremely racist, but obviously inappropriate, and there's no really excuse for that. But you do get in the habit of being like, yeah, but I mean, like, he's a nice guy.
Well, I mean,
I hate people.
I think part of the problem is that we always want to put things in terms of a modern day slant.
Yeah.
So like, it's just like when we watch movies about like slavery or something like that, and we hear somebody yelling racial epithets at somebody like while they're whipping them or something like that. Like when we see Michael Shannon in 12 Years a Slave, we're just like, what a fucking asshole. Like I hate that guy, because you're putting it through the 2019 view of, or whatever year was it, the 2016 view
16? Yeah.
Of like, like this guy's saying racial epithets and whipping the black man. Like, what is he doing? Like that's completely unacceptable in today's society. Mm-hmm. But back then, in the real day and time when this was happening, this wasn't anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that we feel so deeply in movies like that is because we're putting it through a modern day lens. Yeah. Like if everyone sat there and went like, no, this is totally normal. It's nothing to raise your ire about. This is just how it was in those days. Like that's the difference.
I will say also, we really do put a personal spin on that, where it's like, I think Harvey Weinstein is a horrible person, so I don't want to defend him.
Right.
But, my grandfather, from what I remember, was an all right dude who just had some views that maybe I definitely wouldn't share, and were set about in his youth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the problem too is like, like I was listening to a podcast with
Wait, what? That's surprising.
I was listening to a podcast with Ed Norton recently, and one with Kevin Smith not too long before that, where they both had to talk about Harvey because they had extensive like career run-ins with Harvey and stuff like that. And both of them basically said versions of the same thing. Like, I was never in a position to see Harvey doing awful things. I was just in a position to see Harvey as like a business person. Mm-hmm. And he was an awful person, like, some of the time as well.
Yeah.
But, like, I also, like, it's just like, you're not going to see the worst side of the person when you only know them from church. Like,
right. Yeah.
Like, you're never going to see the seedy underbelly of the guy you only know from church. And, I think it's unfair to just assume that, everyone is going to have the same version of this guy. Like, I don't think Ed Norton has to worry about getting like felt up by Harvey, It's not like he would be in a situation where he would necessarily know about this. I mean, it was sort of in the air, but
Ed Norton would have to get worried about being felt up by me, because I just like to lay hands on him just once, I think. Just to be like, like, hey Ed, what's up? Not like inappropriately, but like
there's
give a
Rob
little
getting me too.
Shoulder squeeze for Ed Norton. Although he doesn't.
You want to meet me up in my room at the Beverly?
And I mean, the power in that relationship is clearly Ed in power and me grasping at power.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. Just anyway,
trying to be one of those sucker fish that goes along with the whale.
Yes, basically, yeah. So overarching message here is that generally people are garbage. Robert Evans, not garbage.
May he rest in peace.
Not garbage.
Until we hear a week from now that he was garbage.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess that's to be. Everybody's giving him like the soft glove treatment now, and I guess we'll see.
Nobody was overturning rocks until a week after he died.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, hey, it all comes out. And who knows? We may have to backtrack this in a future episode. But still,
so what do you think Tippi Hedren meant by this thing? Her comments about Robert Evans are
still a titan gone from the industry. And it's he was the guy who brought about a lot of those directors that are doing, we talked about a couple weeks ago, directors who are doing the big movies now were doing those small independent movies then. And he was the guy who was like, I'll give you $1 million to go do this film.
Yeah.
That's an unheard of low budget for what you're asking to do. But if you can go do that and it's successful, the next time I'll give you 2. And the time after that, I'll give you 5. And just prove yourself. And I'll put more trust in you. And now those guys are making movies, and there's no room for any new people because there's no one like Bob Evans who's willing to take a risk on relatively unknown people.
Yeah.
Or people like Josh Trank ruin it for all of us. Garbage. But speaking of garbage people, we are learning a lot about garbage people in LA right now. Because if you are unaware, LA has 4 seasons. For those of you who think that we don't, we do. Fire season, mudslide season, windy season, and earthquake season. All right, there's 4 seasons.
4 distinct seasons. All of them come with 72 degrees.
I mean, it's always 72 degrees and sunny, but, other things happen. And right now we are once again in the midst of fire season, and I think there are 5 active fires burning right now.
Throughout California, yeah.
Throughout the Southern California.
Just Southern California?
Yeah, because technically 2 of them are very close, but they're 2 separate fires. They'll probably merge and become one big fire before this podcast gets posted. But one of them is threatening. We talked about this 2 years ago, I think. The Getty Museum, which is one of the place that holds all of this art and sculpture and amazing things that can't be replaced. And there's a wildfire threatening it right now, which is also making traffic horrible, which is probably more important because people can't take the 405 because it's closed because of smoke.
Yeah.
I think I shared the video.
I think the one thing that they were talking about a lot with the Getty, though, was that it's supposedly supposed to be not fireproof, but incredibly difficult for fire to get all the way to the actual Getty itself.
Yes.
So it may burn around a lot, but it might not get to the actual building. Yeah. And apparently, again, this is all from information I've gleaned elsewhere, that the systems they have in place to sort of keep a fire at bay from actually hitting the actual compound. Yeah. Is pretty world class. So
I guess we'll see.
Maybe there's some sort of it gets up close and then just there's some outrageous sprinkler
system. A moat opens up and fills with water.
Just breaks off and floats into the Pacific.
But if you saw the video
Getty's in Hawaii now.
If you saw the video last year or the year before of driving through hell, where it was fire right at the edge of the freeway, that was the 405 coming through the pass where the Getty is. And apparently it's burning there again. So but the fire's burning and it's tragic, and people are missing work and people are being evacuated. A lot of people are being evacuated. Mm-hmm. The reason I wanted to talk about it, and the reason I say people are garbage, is because the big story I saw come out in the last couple of days, a bunch of housekeepers showed up for work today, and they were working in the evacuation zone, and no one let them know, hey, you should not be here because a fire is coming, and so they just showed up for work. And you brought up an interesting point in the pre-show meeting, which was, what are the odds 10% of them are actually going to get paid for showing up to work today or for the rest of the week where they can't go to work? Right. And I said, I'd take the under no matter what it is. Yeah. Because...
Well, I mean, I'm thinking about it in terms of, when I worked at the restaurant. Every once in a while, we'd have a snowstorm that we wouldn't open because nobody was on the road. And what's the point of having 15 people in the restaurant if you're only going to have 15 customers all day? Yeah. You can't make up that much. So it's just better to be closed. But we couldn't pay everybody for not working that day because it was sort of like an act of God. Yeah. But if you wanted to take a sick day on that day, you were more than welcome to do so if you had one.
Use your PTO hours.
Right.
Yeah.
But I doubt many people in the service and in the house cleaning industry have contracts with sick days and vacation.
No, probably not. And I said
PTO
I guarantee you that at some point someone yelled at every single one of these housekeepers and said, I don't care if the entire state's on fire. I want you here. I don't care if there was an earthquake. I want you here. So they were just I go every day. Yeah. Monday through Friday, I'm there. And now literally it's on fire. People evacuated and then didn't tell the help to not come into work and risk their lives. And now they're not going to get paid. So people are garbage. It's fire season. I'm sure we'll talk about that over the next couple of weeks.
I think the only hope really of a lot of these people getting paid is if somebody, because it's a lot of homes in the Bel Air, Brentwood, Beverly Hills sort of area, Calabasas. So you might get more luck if one of these housekeepers who showed up, cleans for the Kardashians or something like that. Yeah. Because then there could be a story about how that person isn't getting paid, and then you could shame them into, no, we're going to take care of her. It was difficult for us to figure out what was going on for the first couple days here. We had to evacuate our homes. We weren't we didn't think she would really show up, but we intend to pay her for the entire time that she can't even work while the fires are going on because we feel bad about her losing the income too. we can survive. We can pay that, to make sure she gets through, kind of, and maybe some other people will be shamed into it, but I imagine there's a lot of people who are going to be like,
I mean, listen,
you didn't clean the house, so you don't get paid.
Best case scenario, the house burned down. There is no house. Why would I pay you to clean it? You're going to go scoop up some ashes? Best case scenario is the Kardashians, because they would. Chris is good enough to say, you know what? No, we are going to pay her for the whole week. And then one of the other ones, one of the dumber ones, would chime in and be like, yeah, but what about so-and-so who lives up the block? And so-and-so who lives down the block from us? And now we find out that like 11 people didn't pay their help, which then guilts them into doing it. And then more people turn on it. And then basically everyone turns into Tekashi 6ix9ine, pointing out people like, what about them? What about them? What about them? What about them? And
well, I mean, at a certain point, I think you can hide yourself in the fact that like nobody knows you.
Yeah.
So I mean, like if it's a housekeeper for the Kardashians, it's easier for that story to get out. All you got to do is call the TMZ tip line.
Yep.
And say, I have a story about the Kardashians, and they'll come rushing to your house to transcribe it personally.
It'll actually be Robert, what's his name? What's the head of TMZ?
Oh, Harvey Levin.
Harvey Levin.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he'll jump into the TMZ
with his 84-ounce mug.
Yeah. Standing literally on your porch saying like, so tell me about what happened. How about this craziness? And then you'll take your story.
And then you find out that he's being bought off by the Kardashians, just like the National Enquirer and Trump.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, go ahead. Tell me all about this exclusive story you said I could have.
Well, and speaking of Trump, I have another important question for you this week, Corey.
Yeah.
Can stupidity be a national crisis?
It should be.
Is it an impeachable offense? It should be. Yes, that is the correct answer. It absolutely should be. I mean, but on the lucky side, we don't need it because he's done enough dumb stuff to get impeached.
So, I mean, like part of the thought process, to the best of our understanding of the founders with the removal of people from office, was that it shouldn't be about being able to call balls and strikes. Like at a certain point, people have to make decisions, and you make so many of them that some of them are bound to go wrong. So, like, even the best president, when I say best president, whoever in your mind pops up, I can guarantee you there's 10 or 15 things that I could easily point out about every single one of them about, like, mistakes they made.
Yeah.
I used to always, like, give shit to Lincoln for a long time because, yes, everyone remembers the great things that Lincoln did, but you also have to remember the numerous times that he almost completely fucked up the Civil War by having no comprehension of how to put the right people in the right places in order to succeed,
How about
he was getting outsmarted by Robert Lee at every single turn up until Gettysburg, basically, right?
Yes, and they got lucky at Gettysburg.
Yeah, and that was just dumb luck, and then everything sort of started to turn around. But like, how many generals was it that he lost like along the way? Like fired like 13 or 15 different people who were like head of U.S. military command, basically,
and also fired people and then rehired them for the job again.
Yeah,
because
it was
like, well, I got nobody
Martin.
else. So, but all that aside, Lincoln also, lefties, suspended habeas corpus in the United States during the Civil War.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really great guy, emancipated slaves. That's fantastic. But also, if you spoke out against the war effort, he could put you in jail. No bail, no charges. Just let's get him off the street for a while.
That being said, the concern of the Founding Fathers was that people would just start picking at all these little mistakes that somebody could make and how these mistakes could compound and be like, that's not a reason to eliminate or to take somebody out of the office.
Yeah.
They even were kind of, not sure of how to allow somebody to leave if they were sick.
Yeah.
Like
25th came in way later.
Yeah. And the 25th wasn't even about like, it was, there was no question about like, well, the president has polio. What are we?
Yeah.
Does he have to go? It's like, no, he stays in there until he dies or
keep
leaves.
In mind too, for the first 100 years, the president was elected by whoever got the most votes became president. Whoever got the second most votes became vice president.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we even pass power when it's the people voted for this guy, clearly not for this guy, and sometimes they're on different parties. So how do we clear the difference? But
I do think that there needs to be like a high crimes and misdemeanors is a bit of a bar, especially when you're when there's some people who are trying to Federalists paper their way into the president can never be arrested for anything, so therefore nothing is a crime.
It's not illegal when the president does it.
Yeah, and I just feel like it should be like high crimes, misdemeanors, and completely unregulated stupidity.
Yeah.
Like it should just be like clearly without fail, this guy does not know what he's doing. Like we've elected a toddler to run the nation. Like,
and I mean, really, this should be Trump's best week ever.
Much the same as like, you know, like if Barack Obama was just minding his own business and then like an anvil fell on his head and he wasn't the same person afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, like he was not able to speak in complete sentences or comprehend ideas.
I mean,
we should have some sort of mechanism for saying like, listen, there's no reason for him to just be president until the end. Like we should just move on because he's clearly not capable of doing this anymore.
Do you know the story about Edith Wilson?
Oh yeah,
America's first female president.
Yeah,
yeah. But this should be justifiably Trump's best week ever. A couple of really good things have happened this week. He killed he helped lead the raid as commander-in-chief for the #1 terrorist in the world. I can't remember his first name. His last name is al-Baghdadi. He was the head of ISIS, and he was hiding out in Syria, and we got him.
Yeah.
And that really should have been his moment to shine. Also, by the way, he's ending a war, which America has not done in this millennium. There is no war that we have started and ended within this millennium. But it looks like he's pulling out of Syria. So the war with ISIS, or the ISIS action, or whatever you want to call it, is ending. So all of the side effects.
It's funny how that happened before the leader of ISIS was taken down.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm not looking for details here. I'm being very broad, but he's ending a war. By the way, Afghanistan.
Can we pull that mission accomplished banner out of the White House storage?
Afghanistan is old enough now that there could be soldiers who are about to go serve in Afghanistan who were not alive when the war started.
Yeah.
The war is not meant to be won. It's meant to be continuous. That's what George Orwell told us, and looks like he's right. But we did go into Syria, and now we're leaving. So that's a huge victory. That's a way for Trump to reach out to the people on the center and say, hey, I don't want your kids dying in Syria. We did what we came to do. Now we're out.
Except. So this one has a couple parts. So there is a picture that is out there of Trump and all the people in high command watching in the secure conference room, not the situation room, but like the secure conference room, much like the same photo of Obama and Biden and everyone else watching the Osama bin Laden raid.
Yeah, which is clearly what he wanted.
They tried to just sort of duplicate that photo in a different way. But it was taken like 6 hours after the actual raid happened.
Also, I mean, the president had a Big Mac in one hand and a giant T in the other, so people were very weird about that.
There was apparently there was people high up in the military who were quoted as saying that Trump pulling out of armed forces out of Syria earlier this week sort of made them their opportunity to strike like right now, and the fact that this was even capable of happening is a small miracle.
Yeah.
And that Trump severely hurt our ability to actually get this guy by pulling all the troops out of Syria.
And also hampered our ability to get other terrorists, because he then announced that we had intelligence on a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
Announced how we got intelligence on al-Baghdadi. Announced how the raid went down, including almost a play-by-play of how they got to and entered the facility.
Not even a play-by-play, though, in as much as him just talking about how cowardly and like he was like crying and cuddling up in the corner and begging for his life and blah, blah, blah.
Which is not true.
And all these details which don't make you seem like a big tough guy.
No.
But make the half of the world that already hates us hate us more. Like that's the part of the reason, like, you know, it's never a direct step from one thing to another, but you could sort of say like when, you know, the U.S. invaded Iraq the first time, that there were a lot of feelings that got hurt at that moment that carried on into what later became Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and like sort of like the natural progression of U.S. Armed forces coming in and just running buckshot over whatever they want has a long history of causing problems later on.
Yes.
And we don't know the person who heard Trump on Al Jazeera or something like that saying like he was hiding in the corner like a coward when we shot him and going like, well, fuck this guy. I'm going to rise up and attack America because of what their president just said about.
Yeah. And also not true. But you lose the moral advantage when you say he was cowering in a corner, begging for his life, and we killed him.
Yeah. Well, he also so part of this too was that he eventually ignited a suicide vest.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, not something you do when you're begging for your life.
Yeah.
So.
And there were a couple children around, and the children who were there were apparently sort of the
human shields.
Yeah, like they could have had a better shot at him if they could have, waited on their extraction.
Yeah.
But because they had to sort of move so quickly, there was no way to get him alone, and those children who died were, could have otherwise lived, I guess, if we would have thought about this plan a little bit more.
I mean, overall, a very American operation, if you ask me. Just like collateral damage,
had everything, dead children.
Yeah, I mean.
And half the world is angry at us.
Let us not forget, Obama doesn't get off because Obama was bombing children from drones for a long time. So not throwing shit on Trump, just in this particular case, he's the shitty American president who did the shitty thing. So.
But I mean, at the very least for Obama, when the raid to kill Osama bin Laden happened, he came on television. Mm-hmm. He explained in an adult way what happened. He sort of knew that this message was going to be heard across the world, and took the opportunity not to brag or talk about anything in particular other than the lives lost, or this is the end of a sad chapter that started with the planes being flown into the World Trade Center and the day we will never forget and blah, blah, blah. But making sure that people knew that, even though Osama was killed, that, there were efforts being taken to properly dispose of the body according to his religion, other than the water thing, which apparently was not the way to do it. But.
No, and also not the way that they were ordered to do it. And also probably proof that it wasn't Osama bin Laden. He was probably already dead, but we needed to kill him. So he had kidney failure 15 years before 10 years before they killed him. So, anyway, but he did, one of the things I remember reading at that time was that he phrased it in a way that many members of the extremist Islamic world would understand, which is he created a blood feud with us. Mm-hmm. He took members of our clan. This is not about you, and it's not about your children. It's not about anything. This man killed members of our clan, and it is only right that we take his life as well.
Yeah.
And you don't say that because we're America and we don't say those things, but you could tell that he sat down with somebody and formulated that speech to say everything that needed to be said without necessarily saying it very clearly, walking the American people through what happened and making them have some sense of relief that this is over, this chapter's closed. And then you juxtapose that, which must have been hours of preparation for a few minutes on national TV, to a guy who I really feel like got handed a lot of stuff, and they're like, now we're here, we're ready to prep you whenever you need. And he's like, no, I'm going on right now. And he just walked out and found some people and gave
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people. There was some story I just saw about people who are in charge of the secret, top secret information and relaying it to Trump, being terrified about what they can actually tell him.
Yeah.
Because he'll parrot things that he's not supposed to say out on national TV. So there's the number of times where he said something not just classified, but really classified on TV is
and here's the rule, though.
Alarming no.
While there is no such thing as when the president does it, it's not illegal. There is a thing that says it's only classified because the executive, the president, classifies it. So if he were to walk out there and be like, yeah, guys, aliens, totally real. We made contact.
Area 51. Yeah.
Seas vessels. Then he hasn't broken the law because as soon as he says it, it's declassified. And now actually 1,000 FOIA requests will break the fucking internet.
Yes, but the the idea of
You mean we shouldn't be telling our enemies all of the things that we do?
I think there's a reason that some of these things are classified, and we shouldn't just necessarily like lean on that logic as the reason why Trump should be allowed to say these things out loud.
No, he absolutely shouldn't. And it's scary that the Taylor testimony from earlier last week was just basically like, so everyone's terrified. Nobody wants to do anything. We are frozen because you don't know what you said about the other guy too, the military guy who said we can't tell him anything because we're afraid he's just going to go out and just say it.
Yeah. So. I'll just read this from CNN here. It's Bill Taylor, who is the top U.S. diplomat to Ukraine. In a closed-door deposition Tuesday, Taylor said he's been told by Gordon Sondland, the U.S. ambassador to the European Union, that everything Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky wanted, including a White House meeting and military aid to the country, would be held up until he publicly declared investigations sought by Trump. Taylor's statement undercut the White House's defense that there had been no quid pro quo offering on the call, as well as Sondland's previous testimony to Congress, but it corroborated many of the claims made by the intelligence community whistleblower complaint prompted the impeachment inquiry. And later this week, we are going to get the vote on the floor for impeachment.
Right. Yeah.
To launch the formal inquiry. And in the past week, the Democrats have been trying to get all the grand jury testimony from the Mueller investigation and a U.S. It's not appeals court. It's the one lower district court.
District court, yeah.
Yeah. Said that the that the House should have this information because Trump is not going to voluntarily give it up because it's clear that he is not in the market of voluntarily giving things up.
Yes.
So
and basically the law says you have to ask for it first. And what the Democrats filed to do is say, if we just have to make lists on requesting stuff, we're never going to get it because it's clear he's not going to give it up. So we'd like to just skip that step and start the legal proceedings to have it released because grand jury testimony is sealed except for one case. The president and a grand jury testimony against the president can only be unsealed in the case of an impeachment hearing. Yeah. So basically they're like, let's just skip the asking him for it. He's going to say no. We're having an impeachment hearing. Let's just
the good news, at least about this, is that the court system should move expediently.
Yeah.
In
the Southern District of New York, for the Democrats, why would that happen?
I'm just saying, like, normally, if I had a court case that I thought would eventually go to the Supreme Court, you're talking about a decade maybe of spending time going through appeals courts and going back to lower courts and going back up and blah, 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 blah. And then maybe you have a small little chance of having it heard before the Supreme Court. And this one could be in front of the Supreme Court in, 3 or 4 months if they really wanted it to be.
And I think that the best news to come out of this week is that, everyone always quotes Clinton's favorite line of, it depends what the definition of the word is. Mm-hmm. And the Republicans this week were saying things like, well, listen, you got a quid and you got a pro. But if the pro doesn't know that there's a quid, then it's very unclear whether or not there was a quid pro quo. And I'm just like, okay, so that means that clearly all of this is true and you all know it's true. And now we're just trying to be dumb and push things off. So
the worst part is that the Republicans in general, Trump is having a bad week because he's always having a bad week. He's always doing something to step in his own shit. The Republicans should be better about this than they are. And are not. And it's really unnerving to watch so many, the number of people who are saying, oh, there's no quid pro quo, and then there is a quid pro quo, and they're just like, yeah, but it's not clear whether or not Congress really has the authority to release these funds. It's like, actually, Congress is the only one who has the authority to release these funds. Yeah, well, it's not even sure that Ukraine didn't even know about it. And it's just like, well, there is this news article from a month earlier where they said, where's our money? And then it's just like, they keep the other one that they did earlier this week or last week was charging the skiff with their cell phones and stuff like that. You heard about this one?
Yeah.
For those who don't know, when you are dealing with top secret classified material, sometimes you can't even have it in a
you cannot have it.
There's many different versions of congressional testimony.
Yeah.
There's the one on TV where they're at the desk and a bunch of people get 5 minutes each to ask questions. There's the same version of that sort of happens in a large conference room, which is a private, not on camera testimony
but
session.
on the record sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not necessarily for public release.
Right.
And then when there's something really like top secret that needs to happen, only the people who are required to be there go into a conference room called a SCIF, secure, like command infrastructure. I don't know. I can't remember what it stands for.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember now too.
But basically what the idea is that there's no phones allowed on the SCIF. You can't even have it like in your pocket and off because somebody might be able to tap your microphone.
Turn it on or set a thing to turn on.
You lock it away in a special locker when you walk in there.
Yeah.
Because this is how secure this room has to be.
And again, these are documents that the members of Congress don't get to have. Military or whoever brings them to the room.
Yep.
They go in the room and see them. They discuss them. They have the hearing there. Then everyone leaves and someone comes in and collects the documents and takes them out.
And hypothetically, if you repeated anything that you saw on the SCIF, you would be breaking the law.
Yes.
And if you like brought a phone into the SCIF, you would be breaking the law.
You know, if you were live streaming on the internet for your people at home.
Like, I just don't even fucking get it. Like, I'm really upset that Rob got busted for smoking some pot. So I'm going to get a whole bunch of my pot smoking friends and go down to the police station and smoke them out and show them what's bought. Like,
yeah.
We're going to go commit a bigger crime. And like, maybe people stop talking about it. Like, I just don't get it. Like, and like the whole idea was like, they were just like, you know, like, stop hiding behind your closed door hearings.
It's top secret.
But how many closed door hearings were there with Benghazi? Like, that's the problem is that none of these lines of questioning from the Republicans right now fall under the same type of parameters as what they were doing when they had the power. You know, when they were in charge of Congress and they could have 7 investigations into Benghazi, it didn't matter whether or not they had closed door hearings or if it was secret. Or
listen, no one gets off, because if the Republicans win back Congress and the Senate next year, it will be the Democrats pulling the same bullshit. That's the problem. When you only have 2 parties, it just swings back and forth wildly between the 2 of them. And, you know, Italy doesn't have a functioning democracy because it has 19 parties. But there's a sweet spot right in the middle where you have like 4 or 5. And whoever wants control is like, we've got 40% of the seats. Or I've got 40% of the seats. Corey's got 12. That gives us 52. But he's not nearly as extremely to the left as I am. Mm-hmm. So in order to form a government, we have to come to an agreement that, yeah, I'm going to secede a little bit on the far left things that I'm going to say. I'm going to make you come left a little bit on some of the things you want, because otherwise those 3 are going to get together and some of your people are going to defect to that side and they're going to put together a right-wing government. And that's worse than what we would have.
I think that there was something I heard recently about the way in which the United States was set up and the way that we've sort of moved forward over time, and how the glory and the curse of American democracy is that it takes a long time for things that you think should happen overnight to happen.
Yeah.
Like, you know, civil rights, like the right of freed slaves to be able to vote and own property and blah blah blah. Like, all of this took way the fuck longer than it should have.
Yeah.
But part of the reason why the system was sort of built in this way, at least at the time when it was built, was because we didn't want to rush into anything. We didn't want to all of a sudden figure out that we made a huge mistake, which has happened a couple times, like when Prohibition happened.
Yeah.
It was like a big ire. It was, let's move as quickly as we can. Let's ban all alcohol.
Still took a long time.
It still took a long time.
Yeah.
And then by the time it actually happened, people were just like, oh, we should have thought about this a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't take the time. And America has sort of been gun shy by these moments where they went too far too fast and then had a problem. And I think that in today's age where we can't accept that something takes longer than a day. Mm-hmm. I ordered a Lamar Jackson jersey and to have it shipped, and they were just like, it's going to take a week to get to you. I'm like, a week? What?
What's wrong with you?
Is it being flown from the moon? Like, why is it taking so long? Like,
but I mean, keep in mind, the other side of that is it theoretically, Germany in 1928 could have gone from 0 civil rights to free rights within 2 years. Mm-hmm. But the other problem is you can also go from free rights to camps in 3 years.
Yeah.
So the benefit of our system is it takes a long time to get things done, but
and it sort of bucks back and forth.
Yeah.
Like to allow the best argument to eventually.
Right. But that's
after the 40 years of trying to push for civil rights, we have the best versions of the competing arguments on each side.
And the likelihood is that you can't go from where you are back to zero very quickly. It's going to take the same lengthy struggle.
Yeah.
And the whole point is, Thomas Jefferson said every 20 years that everyone who is in government should be replaced every 20 years, that boys should come from the fields to be in government for 20 years and then go home to their fields. One, it would keep people from fighting wars, because if you had a bunch of young kids who were going to go die in a war, they wouldn't want to go fight one. And they wouldn't want to send their friends to die, which is not true when you are an 80-year-old with your kids in their 60s and their kids in their 40s and your great-grandkids so rich that they're never going to have to go serve. We don't have that. But it also means that, like, right about the time that you fought your whole life for something, if it's not a good idea, it's time to go home and a new batch of people come in.
Yeah.
If it is a good idea, they'll take up the cause and push it on forward, and we'll get more things done. But it helps to balance out the good and the bad. We look back at some things and say, well, that took way too fucking long.
Yeah. But now we're in a place where we want things to, like, because everything feels so life and death. Like,
yeah.
There's 30 issues probably that I could say are the most important issues because they affect the most people right now at this given moment in time. And if you said that one is more important than another, then there's some percentage of the people who are going to freak the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like if I said, like, healthcare is the most important thing we got to do. We have to do this right now. We can't wait another day.
But what
then
about
there's going to be
immigration?
somebody, going like, what about all the migrant kids in camps and stuff like that? Isn't that happening right now? Shouldn't we do something about that right now? It's just like, it's not how the system works.
Well,
like,
we can't
just do this.
The problem is that since 1980, when Reagan took office, one of the parties has been playing the long game, and one of the parties has been playing the dumb game. And the Republicans have slowly but surely taken over state houses and governorships and all of the bases, and they said, we're going to cover everything. And we're going to be out of power a lot at the national level, but we're going to do what we have to do. And then Newt Gingrich came in 92, and there was a sweep, and then they just couldn't get things pushed far enough. But it's all culminated now. Everything's an emergency because they've been pushing slowly on all fronts until we're all here and it's an emergency. And there has been no opposition because we've been so busy patting ourselves on the back for a bullshit fucking healthcare system, or for closing Guantanamo, which never happened, and ending the wars, which never happened, and, not bombing brown kids in third world countries, which didn't happen. Life is so good that we forgot that these little incremental steps add up. And it just, all of a sudden you turn around and you're on the cliff. And you step to your right, it doesn't get any better. And you step to your left, it doesn't get any better. Because everywhere you go, we're on the cliff. Just ready to be pushed off. And that's why I'm saying guillotines are the only way. Break out the guillotines already. I'm just saying. That's guillotines solve everything.
We build every single week. I feel like we have a hour to an hour and a half conversation where you just end up at guillotine.
Well, the problem is if you think about,
I feel like when the podcast is about to wrap up when Rob starts going into the guillotines.
If you think about the republic and where we are, which isn't a republic, it's
and where we stand.
If you just think about the political nature of everything. For more than 40 minutes, which is about where we get to right now, I just start getting so angry about everything that I just want to say, guillotines are the only solution. And listen, I'm not saying one party or the other, because when I say we should go out and build the grandest Madame Guillotine of all time out on the National Mall, I'm not picking favorites. I think anyone who's in that goddamn building is right to go up on the stand. Anyone can do it because they're all guilty of everything. Every U.S. president is a war criminal. I liked Obama. He did a lot of good things, but he also bombed brown children all across the world. Clinton did a fine job. Maybe not so much with the interns, but he did a fine job otherwise. And I told him to his face, although I didn't really know it, that he did a horrible job foreign policy and he let people die all over the world because he was too afraid to do anything. They're all bad. Bush looks like a good guy because we're comparing him to Trump. He looks all right, but he was a terrible president. They're all war criminals. And the only thing we can do is to go to the guillotines. That's what I'm saying. The white terror should come.
Can I make a small suggestion for something we could do in the meantime?
Sure.
OTheAnthem.com. Corey to OTheAnthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595.
It took me until you were done that to find the right menu. There you go.
You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, at LegendsCV5 on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I just finished the Ad Astra review. Finally got around to seeing that. So that is like currently uploaded, but needs to be, you need to get the album work right. You got to do the tags and do all that sort of stuff. So it'll be up a little bit later tonight. Available first thing in the morning for anyone who's going to work and wanted to hear what Ad Astra is like.
And I did not. I just realized that in that whole batch. When did we see Ad Astra? Was it last week?
No, it was like
it was last week.
Yeah, Thursday.
Fuck. Yeah, I batched like 6 episodes.
And did
not do Ad Astra. So, all right. Well, that'll be coming up too. So, of course, you can find more of me at Robert N. Cheek on all your social networks. Make sure you check out robertncheek.com, where you can find links to my political blog, the news website, and the books which are available on Amazon.
Barrow's Books.
And, of course, I have a lot of big projects coming up, a lot of things that I'm working on, including the Everyman Movie Reviews, which is the less pretentious version of Corey's movie reviews. And you can find that at anchor.fm/Everyman Movie Reviews.
The one from the guy who lives on the outskirts of the film industry.
Yes. The guy who's not working in the industry, who just enjoys watching movies. So if you enjoy watching movies and you don't care that it's not an Oscar Award winner, I got something for you. Coming up tomorrow on the Everyman Movie Reviews, Hobbs and Shaw. And as I say during the podcast, or during the show there, it's the one that started it all. Because I believe it was our discussion about Hobbs and Shaw that made me say, there needs to be another perspective. But we also have a lot of other...
When I did my review on Hobbs and Shaw?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. It was like, you got to have a perspective. We have the Fast and Furious rule for a reason, which I also explained, so you can check that out tomorrow. We have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. We've been kicking around ideas nearly every week about new stuff. On my front, I'm going to rejuvenate another old idea to try and breathe some life into it. If you have anything that you've ever wanted to... I mean, how do you explain that? If there's something that you have always wanted to know, if you want to understand better...
Do you find like you're painfully unaware of something that people are talking about all the time?
There's a good explanation. Yeah.
Like... Ty from this episode, not like this would be an easy one to give you, but like how did we get here with global terror? Like that might be a Rob Explains Everything.
I can absolutely do that because I can do 7 steps to 9/11.
Yeah.
Bam, 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 bam. Here's how we get, and then from there it just becomes a cycle of we bomb somebody.
With the idea being that if you are unaware of this sort of thing, you learn, and then next time you're in a conversation where somebody's just like, well, I think this terrorist really... but according to Rob...
You can become me, where you become,
the person who ruins everyone's good time.
Yes, yeah. Well,
with your information.
So the first couple episodes I already have mapped out. They're going to include string theory, Mandela effect, the multiverse. And my goal is to take something very complicated and explain it very simply. Yeah. So that you'd be able to just turn a couple of those things in and have a conversation with anybody. I think I've said before on the podcast and other places, my goal when I was 22 was to be able to have a 5-minute conversation about anything. So you learn just enough to seem like you know what you're talking about. That also gives you the skill of being able to explain it very simply to other people. Yeah. And it's not going to be in depth. We're not going to be able to put up charts up on a map anywhere, but I'll tell you how string theory works. So if you have ideas, you can shoot those over to... Corey at OTheAnthem.com.
Mm-hmm. And at Robert N. Cheek on his various social media.
Yeah. And like I said, we have a bunch of other projects we're going to be kicking around, including I'm thinking about just recording as much of the Vegas weekend as possible and maybe just put it up as an O The Anthem special video.
Of us writing in Vegas?
I mean, yeah, we'll skip through the boring parts. I actually would love to do a time lapse of just the room.
Just put like the GoPro in the corner while we're both like...
And it's just going to be like
just a little
speed
timer
through of how long we spend. And then, Corey gets up and smokes and then he sits back down and then we turn and we laugh and at time lapse. The time lapse would be like... And yeah, I think it would be interesting. So if you have things you would like to see, hear it 6 episodes, more... of something we've done in the past, let us know.
Yeah. Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good, But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
And do yourself a favor. Don't get impeached. Not this week.
Yeah, try not to anyway.
Yeah.
I feel like...
You personally. I'm not talking to Trump.
You sent a message to...
Yeah, just people who might be listening to this. Don't get impeached.